I never thought I'd be telling this story, but honestly, you need to hear my side of things because everyone's making me out to be the bad guy here. I'm Brooke, I'm 32, and I've been married to Andrew for almost a decade now. Well, was married. God, that still feels weird to say. I met Andrew at this dive bar in Tampa through mutual friends. He wasn't exactly what you'd call fit. Even back then, he was on the heavier side. But he had this personality that just pulled you in. Like he could make anyone laugh, and he had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. I know that sounds so cliché, but it's true. And yeah, he was bigger, but he carried it well back then, you know? He dressed nice, always had his hair done right, and honestly, I didn't even think about his weight much. We got married pretty quick, like within a year. Everyone said we were rushing, but when, you know, right? The first year was amazing, like we were that couple that made everyone else sick with how happy we were. Then I got pregnant with Mason, and everything started changing. Not just me, I mean, yeah, I gained the baby weight, but I worked my butt off to lose it. Andrew, though, he gained sympathy weight and never lost it. It wasn't a huge deal at first. I mean, he was already a bigger guy, so what's a few more pounds? But then Emma came along 2 years later and it just kept going. The thing is, he stopped trying. Like, completely stopped caring. You know those guys who get married and just let themselves go? That was Andrew. He'd wear the same stretched out t-shirts and his work pants kept getting bigger and I started noticing it more and more. I guess that's when the comments started. But they weren't mean comments, okay? They were just playful teasing, like couples do. When we'd argue about him leaving his stuff everywhere, I might say something like, maybe if you could see past your belly, you'd notice your shoes in the middle of the hallway. Or if he was complaining about being tired, I'd be like, well, yeah, you're carrying around an extra person. But I always apologized. I'd feel bad and buy him his favorite snacks. Which, looking back, probably didn't help, but whatever. The thing about marriage that nobody tells you is how comfortable you get with each other. Like, too comfortable sometimes. I could say anything to Andrew because he was my person, you know? If he was being lazy about something, I'd make a joke about his weight. If he was annoying me, I'd poke fun at his man boobs. It wasn't bullying, it was just our dynamic. He'd laugh it off most of the time, and when he did get upset, I'd always make it up to him. Mason started noticing it around when he turned 6. He'd get this look on his face when I'd make comments about his dad's weight. Once he asked me, "Mommy, why do you always talk about Daddy's belly?" I told him it was just grown-up teasing, like how he teases his sister. I didn't think it was a big deal. Kids are sensitive about everything these days. Looking back, I guess I got meaner after my friend Jessica's husband got really into CrossFit and completely transformed himself. It made me look at Andrew differently. Like, why couldn't he do that? Why didn't he care enough about himself, about me, to try? So yeah, maybe my jokes got a little sharper. Maybe I started pointing out other men's bodies more when we watched movies or went to the beach. But it wasn't like I was trying to hurt him. I was trying to motivate him. You know what the worst part is? Everyone's acting like I'm some kind of monster, but literally every wife I know makes comments about their husband's dad bod or beer belly. It's just what we do. My mom used to do it to my dad all the time. It's not abuse, it's marriage. Sometimes you say things you don't mean because you're frustrated or disappointed or just trying to get a reaction. And okay, fine, maybe sometimes I took it too far. Like when we were fighting about bills once, and I said he'd save us money on food if he didn't eat enough for 2 people. Or when he got passed over for a promotion, and I suggested maybe they wanted someone who looked more professional. But I always made up for it. I'd feel terrible and spend the whole next day being super sweet to him, telling him I was just stressed and didn't mean it. The kids were the only reason I started trying to be more careful with my comments. Mason especially, he's so sensitive, just like his dad. He'd get this hurt look on his face whenever I'd make a joke about Andrew's weight. Emma's different. She's tougher. More like me. She'd sometimes even join in, not understanding that it's different when it comes from your wife versus your 6-year-old daughter. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I loved Andrew. I still love Andrew. Yes, his weight bothered me, and yes, maybe I wasn't always nice about it, but it came from a place of caring. I wanted him to be healthy, to be around for our kids, and maybe I wanted him to look more like the guy I first met. Is that really so terrible? To want your husband to try a little harder, to care a little more about how he looks? But I guess none of that matters now. Not after what happened at Mason's birthday party. I started noticing it more at school functions and neighborhood get-togethers. Like, I'd catch other moms giving me these looks when I'd make suggestions about Andrew's outfit choices. He'd put on these polo shirts that would just cling in all the wrong places, and I'd have to say something, right? Babe, maybe the black one instead? It's more slimming. I was just trying to help him look his best. But suddenly, I'm the bad guy for caring about how my husband presents himself. Things in the bedroom started changing too. It wasn't like I didn't want to be with him anymore, but I started making excuses more often, turning the lights off, saying I had a headache, and when we did get intimate, I couldn't help noticing how much harder it was getting to feel attracted to him. But that's normal in marriage, right? Everyone goes through phases. The kids' school events were the worst. There was this field day where all the parents were running around with their kids, and Andrew got winded just walking to the field. Emma asked why Daddy couldn't run with her like the other dads, and I lost it later that night. I told him he was embarrassing our children, that he was setting a terrible example. Then I immediately felt awful and tried to take it back, saying I was just worried about his health. But you could tell something broke between us that night. Mealtimes became this weird battlefield. He'd reach for seconds at dinner, and I'd give him this look. You know the one. Are you sure you need that, babe? Remember what the doctor said about your cholesterol? I was just looking out for him, but then I noticed he started eating more meals in his office. He said it was because of work, but I knew. Deep down, I knew he was avoiding my comments. The thing is, I tried everything to help him. I bought him a gym membership for Christmas, which he never used, signed him up for that weight loss program at work, which he quit after 2 weeks, even started making these healthy meals that honestly tasted like cardboard. But nothing stuck. He'd just go back to his old habits, and I'd get more frustrated, and the cycle would continue. Mason started acting weird about it too. He stopped asking Andrew to play basketball with him because some kids at school made comments about his dad being too fat to run. Instead of that motivating Andrew to change, he just got more withdrawn. Started wearing these big, baggy clothes all the time, even in the Florida heat. It was like he was trying to disappear. There was this one time at Emma's dance recital where another mom, this stick-thin yoga instructor type, asked if Andrew had any health issues. She tried to be polite about it, but I was mortified. I took it out on him later, of course. Said something like, "Even strangers are worried about you now." He slept on the couch that night, claiming his back was hurting, but I knew better. I started comparing him to every guy we'd see. Look at that dad over there. He's got 3 kids and still finds time to stay in shape. Or, remember Mike from college? He just ran a marathon, and he's older than you. I thought maybe if he saw what other men could do, he'd want to change. Instead, he just got quieter and quieter. The really messed up part? Some of my friends started making excuses not to invite us to couples things. They'd say it was because of scheduling, but I'd see the Facebook posts later. Pool parties, beach days, barbecues. I knew it was because they were tired of me making those comments about Andrew, but in my mind, they were just enabling him. If everyone would just back me up, maybe he'd finally do something about his weight. I guess it all came to a head at Mason's birthday party. We were doing this whole pool party thing, and I'd had a few White Claws with the other moms. Everything was fine at first. Andrew was actually being fun for once, playing with Mason and Emma in the pool before everyone arrived. No shirt, just splashing around like he didn't care who saw his body. And honestly, that kind of annoyed me. Like, why was he so comfortable looking like that in front of our family? But then people started showing up. Other parents, kids from Mason's class, some neighbors. And suddenly Mr. Confident gets out of the pool and puts on this dark blue t-shirt before getting back in. I don't know if it was the White Claws or just years of frustration, but something in me snapped. "Oh, now you're getting shy?" I called out from where I was sitting with some of the other moms. "Ladies, he only covers up when strangers come over. You should see him when it's just family." A couple of moms gave awkward laughs, but Andrew just kept playing with the kids, trying to ignore me. That made it worse somehow. Like, how dare he act like I was the one being weird? "Babe," I said, louder this time, "show everyone what my sexy husband looks like. The shirt's just gonna drag you down in the water anyway." Mason was looking between us with this worried expression. God, he's always been so sensitive. But I couldn't stop myself. Something about Andrew trying to hide, trying to act like he was ashamed now when he'd been perfectly fine before, it just got under my skin. "Come on, Andrew. Take it off. Take it off." I started this stupid chant, and a few of the younger kids joined in. not understanding what they were really doing. They thought it was a game. Looking back, God, I sound awful, don't I? But in the moment, I just kept pushing. Andrew was getting this red flush up his neck, not from embarrassment, I told myself, but because he was being ridiculous about the whole thing. Finally, probably just to shut me up, he took off the shirt. He kind of stood there for a second, all pale and soft around the middle, and I laughed. Just this sharp, mean laugh that I didn't even recognize as my own. Look at you, I said, and my voice was so loud in the sudden quiet. You're like a big joke with arms and legs. The pool went silent. Even the kids stopped splashing. I was still kind of laughing, waiting for someone else to join in, to validate that I wasn't the only one who saw how absurd he looked. But nobody did. Mason's face, my baby's face, just crumpled, and he started crying. Emma moved closer to Andrew in the pool, like she was trying to shield him from me. Andrew didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't make a scene. He just got this look in his eyes, this empty, distant look, and quietly got out of the pool. He wrapped a towel around himself, walked inside, and didn't come back out. I tried to play it off, keep the party going, but everything fell apart after that. Parents started making these weird excuses about other commitments or kids being tired. Within 20 minutes, half the party had cleared out. Mason was still crying, and Emma wouldn't even look at me. My best friend Sarah pulled me aside near the snack table, practically dragging me into the kitchen. "What is wrong with you?" she hissed. "Do you even realize what you just did to your husband? To your son? At his own birthday party?" "Oh, come on," I said, rolling my eyes. Everyone was thinking it. I just said what? "No," Sarah cut me off. "Nobody was thinking it. Nobody but you thinks it's okay to humiliate your husband in front of your children and half the neighborhood. This isn't funny anymore, Brooke. It's cruel." I tried texting Andrew throughout the rest of the party. "Come back out. You're being dramatic. You're ruining Mason's birthday. Why are you making such a big deal out of this?" But he didn't respond. When I went to check on him later, I found him in Mason's room, helping our son build some Lego set he got as a present. They both went quiet when I walked in. "Daddy's sleeping in here tonight," Mason announced, not meeting my eyes. "We're having a boys' night." "Don't be ridiculous," I started to say, but Andrew finally spoke. "Just stop, Brooke. Please, just stop." His voice was so quiet, so defeated, but I was still angry. Why was everyone acting like I'd done something horrible? It was just a joke. A stupid joke that got out of hand maybe, but still. The next morning, my phone was blowing up with texts from other moms. Not checking in, like I expected, but calling me out. Apparently, I'd crossed a line. Laura, whose kid is in Mason's class, wrote this long message about how her husband struggled with his weight and how she couldn't believe I'd be so insensitive, as if she had any right to judge my marriage. I tried to defend myself, posting some old photos of Andrew and me from when we first started dating. "Sometimes we hurt the ones we love because we remember how things used to be," I wrote, thinking it sounded reflective and deep. People started unfollowing me instead. Sarah sent me screenshots of the neighborhood Facebook group where people were talking about me. About how they'd seen me make comments about Andrew's weight before, how they always felt uncomfortable but never said anything. Someone even brought up the time at Emma's dance recital when I made that joke about Andrew needing 2 chairs. I'd forgotten about that one, but the worst part? Andrew wouldn't talk to me at all. He took the kids to school Monday morning without saying a word. When he came home that evening, he had a duffel bag with him. I noticed he'd changed his routine, walking around like he was trying not to take up space in his own home. The kids were different too, quieter, watchful, like they were waiting for me to say something mean again. I found out from Mason's teacher that Andrew had been seeing a therapist, for months. Apparently he told her about the emotional challenges at home affecting Mason's behavior at school, as if I was some kind of abuser. All I ever did was try to motivate him, try to get him to care about himself again. How does that make me the bad guy? That's when things really started falling apart. Andrew took the kids to his sister's place, saying they needed space. I was alone in our house, which felt huge and empty without them, so I did what any normal person would do. I downloaded Tinder. Not to cheat, just to feel better about myself, to know I still had options. I met this guy, Ryan, at the gym. Total smoke show, exactly the type of guy I always wished Andrew would become. We started dating pretty quickly, maybe too quickly, but I wanted to show Andrew what he was missing. I posted tons of photos of us together, making sure to caption them with things like, "Finally with someone who takes care of himself," and "living my best life." But Ryan turned out to be a total jerk. One night, after seeing me make a comment about some guy's weight at the bar, he called me shallow and materialistic. Said I was clearly working through some issues and needed help. Me! The nerve of this guy who probably spends half his life in front of a mirror telling me I'm the one with issues? Meanwhile, Andrew started this whole self-improvement journey or whatever. But not the way I wanted. He was seeing his therapist twice a week, working with some nutritionist who specializes in emotional eating. He wasn't doing it to win me back or even to look better. He was doing it for himself, he said. For our kids. That made me so mad. Like I spent years trying to get him to care about his health, and now some random therapist gets him to do it? And he's acting like I was the problem all along? The worst part was, people were supporting him. My own friends were commenting on his social media posts with these encouraging messages. The same friends who used to laugh at my jokes about his weight. I tried reaching out to him, sent him this long text about how I was sorry if my jokes went too far, but that I only ever wanted what was best for him. You know what he replied? I believe that you believe that. What does that even mean? Then he said he was ready to talk, but only with a marriage counselor present, as if we needed some stranger to help us communicate after 10 years of marriage. So here we are, 6 months later. You want to know the most messed up part? I ran into Andrew at Publix last week. I almost didn't recognize him at first. He wasn't exactly thin, but he looked different, healthy, confident. He was wearing one of those moisture-wicking athletic shirts, not trying to hide anything. And he wasn't alone. This woman was with him, probably around our age, definitely curvy, but she had this energy about her. They were laughing about something in the produce section, totally in their own world. Our kids were with them, and I hadn't seen Mason smile like that in months. Emma was holding the woman's hand like they'd known each other forever. I tried to go over, to be friendly, but Andrew just gave me this polite nod, like I was some random neighbor. He actually thanked me. Can you believe it? Thanked me for showing him who I really was before we wasted any more of each other's time. Said it was the wake-up call he needed, but not in the way I intended. The kids barely acknowledged me. Mason just kind of looked at the floor, and Emma asked if she could stay with Daddy because he doesn't make people feel bad about how they look. Out of the mouths of babes, right? Except, she wasn't trying to be deep. My 6-year-old was straight up telling me I'm toxic. I ended up transferring to a different branch at work, on the other side of Tampa. Had to get away from all the whispers and looks. Lost most of my friends. Even Sarah doesn't return my texts anymore. Everyone acts like I'm some kind of monster, but I swear I was just trying to help. Maybe I went about it the wrong way, maybe I took it too far at the party, but 10 years of marriage gives you the right to be honest with someone, doesn't it? The thing is, sometimes late at night, I watch our old videos, the ones from when Mason was born, when Emma took her first steps. Andrew was heavier in all of them, but he looks so happy. So present. The way he used to look at me, I didn't see it disappearing, but in the videos, I can watch it fade. Year by year, comment by comment. But what was I supposed to do? Just ignore how I felt? Pretend it didn't bother me, that my husband didn't care enough to try? Everyone's acting like I'm the villain in this story. But I'm not. I'm just someone who got frustrated and said what everyone else was thinking. And okay, maybe I shouldn't have said it at Mason's party. Maybe I shouldn't have said it in front of the kids at all. But if Andrew had just listened to me earlier, if he'd just cared enough to change before I had to get mean about it. So yeah, that's my side of the story. Take it or leave it. I'm not the monster everyone's making me out to be. I'm just a woman who wanted her husband to care about himself as much as I cared about him. And if that makes me the bad guy, well, at least I was honest about it.